Okay, you're up.
Okay, so the other day we had the hangout with George Netinuk, and basically the issue that was concluded was that his reasons for contacting the board were nefarious. He was trying to cause the man harm in his real world based on his beliefs on something on the internet. Now, the issue is not that he was right or wrong. The issue is that this man decided to try and cause Brian hardship by trying to get his license revoked, which in his state does negate the ability for you to keep employment. If you lose your employment license or your thingy license, your surveying license, you can't have a job in his state, apparently. Now, I don't know whether that's true, not American, but that is what I was told. And I'm happy to accept it's probably true because most regulatory bodies do need to have this the license, and if the license is kept in place, then great. If it gets revoked for some nefarious reason caused by George, then you're probably going to end up losing your job. And this is what George was on for the hangout the other day, to try and dilute what he did and remove from the focal point his actions that were nefarious. Now, what happened after it was that he produced this video on his own channel. So as you can see, published 27th of July on his channel, and this is his Nathan's Disaster: Time to Come to Terms. And it's not so much what he said in the video, it's more what the comments are. So if I scroll down towards the comments now, this is what you need to do to find it yourself. You need to sort by newest comment first, because for some reason it doesn't come up with the most relevant, even though there's plenty to it. And scroll down the list, and you're looking for the comment that comes from something astronomy. Here we go. FE Astronomy. Now, I don't know who this is, but it's not important what he says. There's a back and forth of 54 replies, obviously, at the time that this is being shown. And I want you to pay attention to the comments that George makes. Let me find his comment. It takes a while because there's a lot here. And notice how buried in comments this is, right? This is proper buried. In the hope that it never gets seen, I would assert. I'm looking for George's comment. It's in here somewhere. Here we go. Right, so George Netinuk, which is him, been in contact with Brian Mullen this morning. The amusing thing is, and this is 24 hours, almost this time yesterday, whilst we were on the show yesterday. The amusing thing is that the FE community does not realize that Brian Mullen no longer champions FE. Well, we all realize that he doesn't champion FE because he's not in it at the minute. He's took sabbatical because of other reasons that I'm not at liberty to reveal publicly. I do know them, but it's not for me to say, and he doesn't want them being public because they're to do with him. But we all know that Brian Mullen is no longer champion in FE. He's not in FE. He's gone. He's off the scene. However, he also says he is a Glober now and scared that these sons of bitches will come after him if he tells them. Got that firsthand, George Netinuk. So I want people to focus on this bit because he's claiming that Brian Mullen is a Glober and scared that everybody will come after him if he tells them. And he's got it firsthand, he says, because he was in contact with him this morning. Well, this is complete and utter nonsense. This is lies, right? If I did this, the ballers would be all over this like a rash because they would claim that I am full of shit. Because Brian is not in touch with anybody on Flat Earth. Nobody. Not Patricia, not Mark, nobody. Now, there is only one person that can get in touch with Brian indirectly because Brian at this moment does not want to be involved in Flat Earth for whatever reason, okay? The one person that can is Robbie Davidson. I spoke with Robbie Davidson this morning for 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 32 seconds. And in that time, I had numerous other bits and pieces because the PC was acting daft. It kicked me off. But that was the main conversation. In this conversation, Robbie told me that he'd seen this message and he'd rang Brian's wife and he'd asked her, was this true? And the answer she gave was, nobody has been in touch with Brian. Brian isn't speaking to anybody in Flat Earth or on the ball side. And if there was anybody if there was anybody to converse with Brian, it certainly wouldn't be this guy, the guy that tried to cause trouble for him. So this is complete and utter lies from Brian's wife through Robbie Davidson. Now, right at this moment in time, Robbie's been in bed for 2 hours. I could call him and get him out of bed, but I'm not planning on doing because the guy's asleep because of the time of the day it is for him at the minute. He was up late last night, But he's told me that I can cite his name as the authority for speaking to Brian Mullen's wife, checking whether this sentence is true. George Netanuk did not contact Brian Mullen the day that he says he did, or any other day. Brian is not in contact with anybody on Flat Earth directly. The only person that can get messages to and from Brian is Robbie through his wife, and his wife has confirmed that this is a lie. Now, yeah, okay, it's hearsay evidence, it's third-party evidence, but if I wanted to, I could ring Robbie right now and get him to speak and tell you himself that he spoke to his wife. But the point is this: he's claiming to have been in touch with Brian Mullen this morning. That is a lie. That did not happen. He's claiming that Brian Mullen is a Glober. That is a lie. That is not true. And let's be honest. I mean, at best, I'm on the fence. I'm not on the fence. I believe that the Earth's not a sphere, but I'm open to the fact that it could be something different. Like, it could be at times spherical, because I have seen evidence that supports that it could be, right? However, I don't think it is.
Just before you move on, sorry, before you move on to the flat earthy bit. So just to back up what you've said, because I was also on that phone call at various stages with Robbie, who obviously is quite, not, I don't want to say upset, but, you know, maybe upset is the right word, but annoyed, because I assume that George has assumed that nobody was in touch with Brian and doesn't realise that Robbie Davidson and Brian co-produced Scientism Exposed. So, you know, to assert that somebody who's worked very closely with a very close, still to this day, family member of the man who he's saying he has got in touch with and is no longer on the Flat Earth side is preposterous. Like I say, it's the co-producer of Scientism Exposed 1 and 2. You know, huge projects that, you know, Robbie and Brian worked together on. So you're not talking about somebody that's just completely lost touch. You know, Brian is out of touch at the moment. However, you know, it's Robbie Davidson has kept in close touch with his family, and indirectly with Brian. So it's not like nobody's in any contact. He hasn't disappeared off the face of the planet. Excuse my terminology. But yeah, so to assume that nobody knows or would figure out that this is an absolute, blatant, outright lie, he's just buried it, like you say, in this comment stream to just have one over on whoever he's debating in this comment thread. And it's nothing more than a lie. It's just an outright lie. He has not been in touch with Brian.
Whatsoever.
None at all. He did not speak to Brian Mullen that day or any day. He has not left Flat Earth. He's took sabbatical. He's concentrating on his life. He is not a Glober, and he is certainly not scared of these sons of bitches, whoever he's referring to, which I can only assume is Flat Earthers. Because if I was to jump ship, I wouldn't be scared of anybody in Flat Earth at all. Chris Monk seems to have jumped ship. He's not scared of anybody in Flat Earth. So why would anybody think that these sons of bitches, being Flat Earthers, would be anything other than, well, we've all got the right to choose, right? And that's exactly what would happen if that was actually true. Nobody in Flat Earth would give me any trouble, or Chris Monk, or anybody else, because everybody in Flat Earth realizes it's a choice. You decide based on your own merits of your own, however you evaluate your own evidence, right? Anyway, so he claims he's got this firsthand. This is complete and utter lies. So my question is, what are you ballers going to do about this? Because if you guys push for the evidence, I can and will cite Robbie Davidson, and we'll get him on a hangout, and he will vouch for it and prove the phone call to his Brian's wife by proving date and time for it, and we can prove that this conversation did take place. And Robbie will vouch for the fact that Brian Mullen was not contacted by George Netanuk yesterday, and there were no conversations. He hasn't left Flat Earth. He's not a Glober, and he isn't scared of anybody. Now, my question is this. What are the Globers going to do about this? Because if this was me, they'd be all over it. But because it's George, nobody will say anything. It'll be swept under the mat, forgotten about. But is that honest? Is that intellectually honest for you ballers? So I'm calling out George Netanuk right now, and I'm calling out every single baller. So Huey Rolfe and all them idiots that belong in Earth Discussions 2.0. Anybody that has any associations with George Netanuk, I want you to all stand up for George and tell me what a great guy he is on the back of this. Now, further, I want you to read this. Mr. Kozlowski, this is the guy that soundly claims is blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. George, that's very interesting to hear. Will you be able to say more? Do you think Brian will come forward to say more? He was in my Facebook group for a good while now. I think he was making some progress in our exchange while surveying da-da-da-da. Then he vanished. Now, notice that the question was, will you be able to say more? And George then does not answer this question at all. Writing a force equation about da-da-da-da, the solution becomes very difficult. This is all shop talk. There's no need to include items with significant amount da-da-da. You don't need to account for the effects that Pluto has on the moons, da-da-da. Maybe you should read what I wrote about modeling. But he doesn't answer the question that was asked. So Kozlowski asks, will you be able to say any more? And the answer, he doesn't even address it. That tells you that he's lying, because he should have answered that question, and he didn't do. Because if he had spoke to Brian, there would be more conversation than just this one line that he saw, this one little paragraph that he's put here. So George Natanuke, you're a liar. I'm calling you out right now, and I'm asking you for any of your friends that will support you on this point. Let's hear how many friends you have right now, George, because you're telling lies. Let's see how many people stand behind you. Done.